Chapter 9 begins on page 70. It's a picture of a fern. Notice on page 70 down at the bottom, we go through all of the kingdoms again, the 6 kingdoms. We've got Kingdom Archaea, Kingdom Bacteria, Kingdom Protista, Kingdom Fungi, Kingdom Plantae, and Kingdom Animalia. Notice that we're on Kingdom Plantae this time. And on page 71, it says Chapter 9, Plant Classification. And there's a quote. It says, "The beauty of the world is Christ's tender smile for us coming through matter." That's from Simone Weil. Turn your book to page 72. This is a longer chapter, so let's go through and look at our headings the way we always do. Or make sure to sit upright and follow along with your eyes and your fingers if possible. Top of page 72 in black letters it says Plant Classification, and then underneath that in green letters it says Plants. On page 73, it says Algae. Turn your book to page 74 and 75. There on the right page, in green letters, it says Lichens. That's a weird word, lichens. Turn your book. At the top of page 76, in green letters, it says Mosses. Towards the bottom of 76, it says Ferns. Turn your book again, turn the page to 78, and up at the top it says conifers or conifers. Page 79 is a huge page with just figures of different phyla and different classes of plants. Turn your book to page 80, up at the top in green letters it says flowering plants. And that's it for the chapter. Very long chapter, so let's turn back to the beginning, page 72, and let's read this together. A very long chapter. Plants. Take a moment to think of all the things that you use that are made from or result from plants. Look at figure 9.2 to remind yourself of some plant uses. Now, turn to Appendix 2 in the back of your text to find a list of more than 150 uses that we make of plants. As you can see, our lives are intertwined with the plant kingdom so closely that we could not live without plants. All members of the kingdom Plantae are autotrophs. This means that they are self-feeders. Plants make their own food energy through photosynthesis. They make all of our food too, even though some plant food is changed into animal food before we eat it. If there were no plants, we could not enjoy beef, pork, fish, lobsters, clams, shrimp, or other animal products because all of these creatures depend on plants for their food. You will learn more about how plants make sunlight and make food energy in a future chapter on nutrition. Right now, our goal is to clearly answer, what is a plant? Then we will briefly outline the different types of plants. Unlike archaeans and bacteria, plants are eukaryotes, so they have nuclear membranes and organelles. Unlike protists, plants have multicellular bodies with special cells for special jobs. Unlike fungi, plants have cellulose walls and chlorophyll. Because plants contain chlorophyll, they can make their own food energy. See figure 9.3 for an outline of the classification of Kingdom Plantae. Look at the top of page 73, please, and let's learn about algae. The plant kingdom contains a tremendous variety of creatures, some great, some small. But all autotrophs, all of them are autotrophs with cellulose cell walls. There are 3 main phyla in the kingdom Plantae. One, phylum Chlorophyta, gets its name because of chlorophyll, the green chemical needed for photosynthesis. Green algae is a common name used for plants in phylum Chlorophyta. Some of these green algae are important starting points for the food chains in ponds and lakes. One genus of green algae, Spirogyra, also called pond silk, is interesting to study under the microscope. Looking at figure 9.4, you can identify the cell wall and the chloroplast. The ribbon-like chloroplast is in the shape of a spiral, thus the name Spirogyra. With a compound microscope, you can see for yourself the dense nucleus and sometimes a vacuole, as well as the cell wall and the spiral chloroplast. A pyrenoid in Spirogyra is a storage area for starch. Pyrenoids are only visible if the algae has been exposed to sunlight for several hours before being viewed. In addition, to see the starch bodies, they must be stained with iodine first. The brown iodine solution turns bluish black when it reacts with starch molecules. Turn to page 74. Spirogyra reproduces asexually by binary fission, but it can at times produce sexually, as shown in the life cycle above in diagram 9.6. When Spirogyra reproduces sexually through conjugation, two filaments join together. Chloroplast from one of the cells fuses with cytoplasm in the other to form a thick-walled zygospore. The zygospore, containing a zygote with a unique DNA, either germinates at once or lies dormant until the following spring, when it grows into a new filament of Spirogyra. Chlorella is another member of phylum Chlorophyta. These tiny, spherical green algae have been studied immensely as scientists have tried to understand photosynthesis. Chlorella gets its name from its one big chloroplast containing lots of chlorophyll. Protococcus is a simple green algae that you may find almost anywhere. The green coloring on the north side of many tree trunks and on damp boards and even some rocks is due to millions of individual cells of Protococcus. This algae is so small that even with a good microscope, you will only see its cell wall and chloroplast, but that's big enough to know that it belongs to kingdom Plantae. Fucus, brown algae in phylum Phaeophyta, may be seen in the cool waters off New York and New England. We're at the top of page 75 now. Agar, used to make agar medium for culturing bacteria, is made from a red alga in the phylum Rhodophyta. Members of phylum Rhodophyta, for example Irish moss, have chlorophyll just like other plants, but in red algae, the red pigments cover up the green color. Let's read about lichens in the middle of 75. Some green algae live in very close association with fungi. The fungal hyphae provide a shady, humid environment for the algae. The algae make food for themselves and are also used by the fungi as a food source. Two organisms living so closely for the benefit of both is called mutualism. You should recall learning about mutualism in Chapter 6 when we discussed nitrifying bacteria in the nodules on the roots of legumes. Lichen is a case of mutualism in which the two organisms are living so close together that many people think they are one creature. Lichens have even been classified and given scientific names as if they are one organism. For example, Centraria is a common grayish lichen that grows on boulders. The northern parts of North America, Europe, and Asia are covered by Cladonia rangiferina, known as reindeer lichen. Turn to page 76. Up at the top, let's learn about mosses. In the phylum Bryophyta are three classes, which include liverworts, hornworts, and mosses. A common hornwort and the common liverwort are probably no more common to you than they are to average Adam. These members of phylum Bryophyta are small, green, and grow very close to the ground. Because of their small size, most people don't notice hornworts or liverworts. Large members of phylum Bryophyta tend to be small since they have no vascular system. That is, bryophytes have no special tubes for moving liquids through their bodies. Bryophytes do not have true stems, roots, or leaves. Rhizoids are tiny root-like structures that hold the mosses to the ground. Bryophytes reproduce by alternation alternation of generations. The sperm cells must swim through a film of water to reach the egg cell. The new organism is called a single-celled zygote. The zygote grows and produces spores which grow into the part of the bryophyte that you can easily see. The most familiar bryophytes are mosses. Like the liverworts and the hornworts, mosses have no vascular system and need a film of water for reproduction. That explains why mosses are almost always found in the woods or under porches and in shady areas where it stays moist. That also explains why mosses can get only a few centimeters tall. Without a vascular system, water cannot be raised very high above the ground. Let's read about ferns on the bottom of page 76. Ferns are often found where mosses and other bryophytes grow. However, ferns are a very different kind of organism in one major way. Ferns have a vascular system. All plants with vascular systems belong to the plant kingdom's phylum Tracheophyta. The ferns, because they don't make seeds, are in class Phyllociniae. Whisk ferns, club mosses, and horsetails are three other seedless classes in phylum Tracheophyta. The special tube-like cells in the vascular system allows ferns to grow taller than mosses. Fossil evidence indicates that at one time there were forests of tree-sized ferns. These fern forests seem to have been abundant when the dinosaurs ruled the earth. Today, one of the tallest ferns you will find is the Pteridium aquilinium, called the common bracken. The bracken fern grows up to 2 meters high, taller than average Adam, your average sized dad. Average Arnold, your average sized dad. All right, turn to page 77. Figures 9.18 and 9.20 show the frond of a fern. Each frond is divided into sections which are sometimes mistakenly called leaves. A small part of the frond are leaflets, correctly termed pinnae. On the undersides of some fronds are dotted with small brown bumps called sori, made of clusters of sporangia containing the spores. Some ferns have their sori on a separate stalk. You may try to pull up a fern frond and find that it is attached to several neighbors by a horizontal underground stem called a rhizome. The small, root-like rhizoids anchor the fern to the ground. The ferns grow taller than the mosses because of their vascular systems, but they still need a film of water to reproduce. That is why ferns are found with mosses in wet, humid places. Turn your book to page 78 and we'll learn about conifers. Similar to the ferns and like the flowering plants that we will study, the conifers have a vascular system and are members of phylum Tracheophyta. Unlike ferns, conifers and flowering plants do not need a film of water to reproduce. Instead, conifers and flowering plants produce seeds. Plants with seeds are grouped in either class Gymnospermae or class Angiospermae. Plants with seeds not inside the fruit are all in class Gymnospermae. Gymno is a Greek word meaning naked, and spermae means seed. That is, the seeds are naked, not hidden. Look at a pine cone and you can see the seeds between the scales of the cone. Most gymnosperms are commonly called conifers because they have cones. The name conifer comes from two words, coni, meaning cone, and fer, from a Latin word meaning to carry or to have. You should be familiar with the word ferry from the same Latin root word. A ferry carries things. A conifer carries or has cones. Down at the bottom of 78. Most conifers are evergreens, meaning that some of their needles or scaly leaves stay on their branches over the winter. The conifers are the most important plants to both the lumber and the paper industries. The largest living creature on Earth is a conifer. The oldest tree is also a conifer, a bristle cone pine. in California that began growing over 2,600 years before Christ was born. Uh, that's in chapter 1. Okay? Turn to page 79. There we've got all of those phylum. We've got phylum Chlorophyta, phylum Bryophyta, and phylum Tracheophyta. So you can see the difference between them. Phylum Tracheophyta is actual plants, whereas the Bryophyta are more like mosses, and the Chlorophyta are more like just algae. Okay, and you can see that they are broken up into classes depending on whether they produce seeds or whether they are seedless. Okay, and then from there they have subclasses, monocotyledonnae and dicotyledonnae. All right, turn your book to page 80. We are almost done with the chapter. This is the last page. Up at the top of page 80 is flowering plants. Plants with seeds inside a fruit are grouped into the class Angiospermae. Angio means hidden, so Angiospermae means hidden seed. Plants that have hidden seeds, that is, angiosperms, are the flowering plants. Every single plant food listed in Appendix 2 is a member of the colorful class Angiospermae. The flowering plants are not only the most obvious plants on Earth, but at this time they are the most dominant plants. Flowers are special plant organs designed for reproduction that we will study in detail in Chapter 11. The flowers on an angiosperm may be easy to identify or almost unnoticeable. If they are a gift for your mother, be sure to get angiosperms with pretty, bright blossoms such as those shown in figure 9.28, and that's a field daisy down at the bottom. Do you see that? Very pretty. Moms like those. Class Angiospermae is easily divided into 2 subclasses based on the structure of the seeds. Plants in subclass Monocotyledonnae are called monocots, and plants in subclass Dicotyledonnae are called dicots. Cotyledon is the correct term for the special seed leaf used for food storage in a seed. You should already know from playing Monopoly that the prefix mono means 1. Di, as in dissect, means 2. Now you can deduce that the word monocotyledonnae means 1 seed leaf, and dicotyledonnae means 2 seed leaves. The number of seed leaves is the main difference between monocots and dicots. The next time you have peas, beans, or even a few peanuts, be sure to remove the seed coat and you will see 2 cotyledons that you are eating for their stored up food. Figure 9.29 outlines the other differences between monocots and dicots. For instance, every plant with 1 cotyledon has parallel veins in its leaves. Plants with 2 seed leaves with branching veins and their vascular tissue is a ring. These regular and consistent patterns of structure in monocots and dicots are evidence that these organisms were designed according to an intelligent plan. Let's look over at the chart on page 81. I want to make sure you guys understand this. Okay, first let's look at the dicotyledonnae. And so do you see how the seed actually breaks in half perfectly into 2 separate pieces? 2 means di and di means 2. So if it's a seed that you can break in half, like a peanut or something like that, then you know it is a dicotyledonnae. Look at the leaves. Do you see how the veins on the leaf kind of branch out and go off to the side? And then look at the flowers. Notice how the flowers are in 4s or 5s. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 petals in that flower. And then if you were to look at a microscope image of the stem, it forms a perfect ring in a dicotyledonnae, and we're very familiar with those. Now let's look over at the monocotyledonnae. The seed is like a corn seed or an onion seed. It's just 1 piece. You can't split it in half. And in those types of seeds, look at the veins, look at the leaves. The veins form straight lines that go right up. Okay, they don't go off to the side, they don't branch out. Okay, the veins are parallel in those types. If you look at the flowers are all arranged in 3s or 4s. And if you looked at a microscope image of the stem, the veins are kind of scattered all over the place. They don't form a ring. So remember, if you can break a seed in half, it's a dicotyledon, and if it's just one solid seed like a corn or something like that, then it's a monocotyledon. That's it for the chapter on plants. Bye-bye.